we're looking at the Pine River, a tributary of the Wisconsin River, and the Lower Wisconsin Riverway is the subject of our show. Now we'll hear a presentation by Lower Wisconsin Riverway Board President Mark CUPP, an update about the Lower Wisconsin.
Okay, thank you. Well, with great pleasure today, I get to reintroduce Mark CUPP, Lower Wisconsin State Riverway Board Executive Director. Mark is another one of our crowd favorites for my 6 years of scheduling program speakers. In fact, out of all the speakers that RARIA member Gary Gukenak heard during my 6 years, he had 2 people that he told me, Paul, you can bring those people back anytime. One was the bird guy from last December, Eric Bolden, and the other one was Mark CUPP. So Mark, if you've got Gary Gukenak's blessing, that says a lot. So Mark has a long history with RARIA, stretching way back to our country kitchen days. I had scheduled Mark during my first year in 2019, however, he had to cancel on me due to an emergency board meeting. I then rescheduled Mark the next year, only to have us cancel on him, because we were all in quarantine and we were not gathering. We tried again for a third time. And Mark's last appearance with us was on December 9, 2021, only to have me not here on that day, and Barry Rogaire had to sub for me. But fortunately we had the videotape so I could see Mark's presentation. Today, all the stars and the schedules and the weather, everything is aligned to have Mark here. Mark is back for an update on the Lower Wisconsin Riverway. Just as RARIA is closing out the end of its 50th chapter anniversary year, Mark is also celebrating this year a milestone of his own. This is the 35th year anniversary of the Lower Wisconsin Riverway, created in 1989 by Act 31 under then Governor Tommy Thompson. Congratulations, Mark. Sometimes we people that live in the neighborhood of this Lower Wisconsin Riverway, we sometimes take for granted the importance of this natural wonder to our area that runs 92.3 miles from the Prairie du Sac Dam to the juncture with the Mississippi River near Prairie du Chien. And we definitely thank Mark for his many years of service to remind us about that importance. So ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark CUPP. Bigger. And I'll run in and get some lights. And again, if you want to move around, Mark, just take the mic.
Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here today. It's not snowing, but it's cold. Well, thank you to all the educators who are here today. And as I was preparing for this, I was thinking, I can name all of my teachers from kindergarten through grade school, many of them from middle school, most from high school, many from my college days. I had a few classes at UW-Richland and started my college career in Illinois and then at UW-Madison. You know, we always thank our veterans, and justifiably so, but teachers are such an important part of our growing up, and I've had so many teachers who have inspired me in my life. And some of those are here today in this room. Thinking about those from Richland Center and Richland School District. They instilled a passion in me for learning and lifelong learning, and that passion continues with me today. So thank you to everyone who's an educator and continues to inspire me. So many of them have had a profound influence on me, just not for the education that they provided to me, but it's setting an example and being mentors for me. Coaches, the support staff at schools, even custodians could be an example on being kind to people, as well as, in some cases, administrators and school board members. So everyone associated with the Richland School District in some way or another deserves thanks, and you're never thanked enough. So let's see if I get the buttons right here on this. Advance, please. Perhaps if I turn it on.
Is your battery dead too?
There, I think I got it now. Anything happening?
Remember when we were in grade school and we had like a film script that got stuck? Nothing's any different. I know. Yep, I know. So tiny machines. We were having them.
Oh, I love this.
There you go.
Well, Paul, I'm going to be moving around.
That's
So you
all
get
right.
up here.
Around all you want.
So, let me start again. Thank you to all the educators. All right, so the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway begins on that last part of the Wisconsin River. The Wisconsin River begins way up on the border with the Upper Peninsula of Michigan at Lac Beaudesert, continues down up through the center part of the state, 430 miles. And it's that last 92 miles that comprises the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway. A little closer view of that, we're looking at basically a 6-county area: Dane, Sauk, Iowa, Richland, Grant, and Crawford, many of these communities that you are familiar with. Getting below the last dam on the river at Prairie du Sac, the Wisconsin River is known as the hardest working river in the nation because of the series of 26 dams and 21 impoundments, and down to the confluence with the Mississippi River at Prairie du Chien. This is a view from Pikes Peak in Iowa, looking across the river toward the famous Wyalusing State Park in the Bluff. Our first written record of what the Wisconsin River looked like prior to those countless generations of indigenous people that used the river. And they had no written language, and therefore we have to rely on the journal of Father Marquette. When Marquette and Joliet came down the river in June of 1673, they started from Green Bay up the Fox River to the Le Portage or Portage, and then down the Wisconsin River. And Marquette said, the Wisconsin River is very broad with a sandy bottom that forms numerous shoals that render navigation difficult. It is full of vine-clad islands. On its banks one sees diversified lands with woods, prairies, and hills. We saw oak, walnut, basswood, hickory, maple, elm, and another kind of tree armed with long thorns, which has no name. And on the 17th of June, we entered the Father of Waters with a joy which I cannot express. And so that's what we learned from Marquette, and that's what we could still see today. The sweetest species of trees have changed a little bit, but when you paddle down the river, that's what you're basically seeing 350 years later. And every explorer, early explorer from Jonathan Carver, the British explorer in 1766, he talks about the sandy bottom and the difficulty in navigation. And then the early American explorers about running on sandbars and the difficulty in navigation. The early steamboat pilots running aground. Finally, we get to the 1880s, and the executive director of the Wisconsin Historical Society for several years, several decades actually, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, was a fellow named Reuben Golden Thwaites. And in mid-1880s, 1886, he spent the summer, apparently that's what people did, they took the whole summer off, especially in academia, and they would do different trips and studies and go places. And so he took a rowboat, and with a companion, he went down the Fox River, went down the Rock River, and took his wife and went down the Wisconsin River from Portage to Prairie du Chien. And so when they got to Helena, near Spring Green, every railroad bridge had a bridge tender in case a steamboat would come by. And they stayed overnight there, and he writes glowingly about the hospitality of that bridge tender and his wife. Well, the next morning, he gets in the skiff, the rowboat, and he heads down the river. And he writes, the Wisconsin River remains, no, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. None but a hermit could enjoy these long stretches of waterway. None but a hermit could enjoy these long stretches of waterway. Where the oppression, oh God, I gotta get myself together. None but a hermit could enjoy these long stretches of waterway. Where, just a second, I got it here. I thought I did. But here, I think I got it. None but a hermit could enjoy those long stretches of waterway where the oppression of solitude is felt with such force that it takes but slight stretch of the imagination to carry oneself back in thought and feeling to the times when the black-robed members of the Company of Jesus first penetrated the gloomy wilderness. And then we come to Aldo Leopold, who shortly before his death said of the river, the Wisconsin River remains in some places hardly changed since Paul Bunyan's day. At early dawn, one can still hear it singing in the wilderness. Perhaps our grandsons, having never seen a river, will never miss the chance to set a canoe in singing waters. And that's what's so important about the Riverway project, is we want to be able to preserve a place where our grandsons, our grandchildren's grandchildren can set a canoe in the singing waters of the Wisconsin River. This place of extreme beauty, wilderness type of setting, and we want to preserve that for the future. Now, I want to talk about just a few things that have happened that are quite remarkable, have happened in recent years. One of the things is working with the Wisconsin Wetlands Association, the Friends of the Lower Wisconsin Science Team, DNR, some private landowners, and the Riverway Board. The wetlands in the Riverway, the bottomland forest, the swamp areas, the marshes, were recently declared under the United Nations and the Ramsar Conventions as wetlands of international importance. There are no regulatory overhead associated with this, but it's another recognition of the Lower Wisconsin as a very important place. It's an important bird area, special features. It has 20 state natural areas along that 92-mile corridor, 100,000 acres, and now wetlands of international importance. It made 8 of the 9 criteria for that. As a result, I was inspired to write a poem. Now, Mrs. Fry might remember we had poetry in 3rd grade, and when I told my father that I really enjoyed poetry, and he said, "No son of mine's going to be a poet." Well, I'm sorry, Father. That still was a calling, I guess. And so these slides are timed, and I'll probably be a little off on my timing, but I hope you enjoy the slides and the poem. This is my ode to wetlands. And I was able to debut this on a sandbar when I took the Wisconsin Wetlands Association on a trip. I go to the wetlands in the spring. I go to hear the angels sing, the primordial call of the sandhill crane, the cacophonous choir of the red-winged blackbird, the symphony of spring peepers with the bass of bullfrog brethren. I go to the wetlands in the spring. I go to hear the angels sing. I go to the wetlands in the summer. I go to watch the angels dance, the purposeful flight of the dragonfly, the delicate maneuver of the damselfly, the ballet of the butterfly's romance with each flower. I go to the wetlands in the summer. I go to watch the angels dance. I go to the wetlands in the fall. I go to see the angels paint, the yellow sneezeweed and lavender of obedience plant, the proud imperious purple of ironweed, the radiant ebullient spike of the cardinal flower. I go to the wetlands in the fall. I go to see the angels paint. I go to the wetlands in the winter. I go to learn where the angels sleep, the frozen landscape under a blanket of white, cattails of brown with a crown of snow, buttonbush and red osier poised for renewal. I go to the wetlands in the winter. I go to learn where the angels sleep. I go to the wetlands in the spring, in the summer, in the fall, in the winter. I go to hear the angels sing, to watch the angels dance, to see the angels paint, to learn where the angels sleep. I go to replenish my soul, my heart, my mind. I go to maintain my hope for tomorrow. I go to the wetlands in the spring. I go to hear the angels sing. Thank you. Another really amazing event occurred in 2023. You may recall we had extremely low water conditions on the Wisconsin River. It was so low that it was very difficult for navigation, especially when I had the large Voyager replica canoes out that we utilized for giving tours on the river. They're two very long, 25-foot long boats. I'll show you those in a little while. And one of the Friends of Lower Wisconsin science team members, Jean Unmuth, who's a retired DNR person, was walking below the dam, just kind of looking for artifacts and other things, and she came across all of these mussels, clams, along the shoreline, the rocky area where mussels like to live. And so she began to take them and toss them in the water, and all of this, there's too many of these, and they're going to be stranded here and die. So she had contacted me, and I contacted the president of the Friends group, and he contacted the River Alliance of Wisconsin, and then we contacted the DNR mussel expert, and it ended up being a positive thing. Between all of those groups, we were able to marshal volunteers and start saving mussels. And we had some teachers get involved with school groups, and we taught river safety and how to get on the river and do mussel rescue. It got all kinds of media attention. People learned about mussels. And this is Ellen from River Alliance. They got Wisconsin Public Television, Channel 27. Social media went crazy. This is Lacey Kitchell from DNR. He's a wonderful educator as well as scientist. I had someone on Facebook from Hawaii whose family owns a cabin on Highway 60 between Gotham and Muscatine say, I can't be there, but I've got friends that want to help. So it literally went global. And so now, I don't know, thousands of mussels were saved. They're very important to the ecosystem. And then this led to not only creating great public awareness, but also we now have a volunteer network that can be called either by phone tree, email, and social media, that if this happens again, we have literally hundreds of volunteers ready to go, boom, right now, and help save mussels. So we turned the negative into a positive. Another very important project that just was completed, and we're winding down, taking out the old Lone Rock bridges, but the new one's in place and is open for traffic. So this started as a project that was, well, it's been gonna go and then delayed, and gonna go and then delayed. Kind of like the Highway 60 project from Gotham to Muscatine that I've been working on my entire career with the Riverway. But Senator Howard Markling was able to accelerate the scheduled date for this project. And so it started then, not quite 2 years ago, and just as I said, was recently completed. So this is the old bridges, which many of you can probably remember crossing. They had to construct this causeway that helped with construction of the new bridge, as well as a causeway for demolition of the old bridges. And that caused a very remarkable thing, which was closure to navigation of the South Channel. This is during construction. You still can see the old bridge, the new bridge under construction. And what we have, as part of the innovative things we've done in the Riverway, we've developed a new motif for bridges crossing the river. Now, part of our mission is to minimize intrusions into the natural surroundings of the river. So you got a bridge crossing the river. There's only so much you can do, right? But it dawned on us that we could try to incorporate the idea of sandbars and the color, and then also aesthetic treatments on the vast concrete expanses of a bridge, particularly a big bridge on a big channel. And so we did this on the Highway 14 bridge at Spring Green, and now we further refined it on this bridge. It's another shot of the new bridge, the demolition of the old bridge, and this is where we come up with some of those techniques. It's hard to see, but you could see the striations on the parapets and then also on the piers. So when you're paddling down the river, it starts to look more like a sandbar than just a bridge across the river. In addition to the Lone Rock Bridge project, we'll be using the same motif on the County Highway 2 bridge, crossing between Blue River and Port Andrew. And we'll be working with DOT on the Highway 60 project that allegedly is going to come to fruition with construction beginning in 2027 and 2028. And some other projects like County Highway C between Frank Lloyd Wright Visitor Center and Tower Hill and APT and along that area. Sauk City Railroad Bridge, that's now going to be reconstructed as a recreational bridge, and that will create a whole new network of trails that'll go to the former Badger Army ammunition plant. There'll be snowmobile trail, bicycle trail, and pedestrian trail that'll hook Sauk County, Dane County, and that'll hook up to Madison, Mazomanie, and create a whole huge network of trail, eventually hook up to the Elroy Sparta Trail, and kind of one of my visions was to go all the way from Devil's Lake to Wildlooseing at some point in the future with a trail. We have the Wisconsin River Trail at Boscobel that people are working on diligently, so a great recreational trail opportunity there. That's their motif. It should be starting construction any day now. And then we continue our work on effigy mounds. My dear friend Brian McGraw in the back there works with me in the Three Eagles Foundation on the famous site in southern Richland County known as Frank's Hill. And Dave Martin is the president of the organization and I'm vice president, and Brian is much more than secretary treasurer. He is also our main steward and spends countless hours on the site, as Terry can attest to. And Dave Martin's late wife, Joan Marchanda Martin, was also a strong supporter of this organization. These are the mounds on Hill East coming up for the winter solstice. There are alignments with solstice and equinox events. Don't have time to explain all of it, but it's an incredibly sacred spot, and we have visitors come to this site quite often. Nearby, less than half a mile away, this is a site known as the Giant Ghost Eagle. It's been plowed under for about 160, 70 years. But last November, we were able to get out in this field and use lime outline. The largest known bird effigy in the world was at the Mendota Mental Health Grounds in Madison. It has a wingspan of 600 feet. This bird has a wingspan of nearly 1,300 feet, the largest bird mound anywhere in the world, and it's right there across from Muscadet, right near Frank's Hill. So right in that area is the largest concentration of bird mounds anywhere in the world. And also right in that area, we have, just off Highway 60, you probably drive by it if you're going west on 60 from Muscadet, a beautiful little bird mound, and then once in a great while, this happens. When the Wisconsin River is flooded and Mill Creek is flooded, you have the bird mound, which is the air spirit, surrounded by water. So the water spirits and the air spirit mixed together. And then not too far from there also is an amazing mound group known as the Twin Lizard, or the Bloyer Mound Group. And this is probably the largest earth mound that you'll see other than perhaps the Serpent Mound in Ohio. I asked a friend of mine to go with me to look at what's labeled mound number 10, because it is a huge mound. And I said, well, you know, how much dirt do you think is in that mound, just above the ground? We measured and measured and measured, and he goes, well, I would say about 30, 15-yard dump trucks. And I said, well, I mean, I don't even really understand how much dirt that is. And he goes, well, he deciphered a little more. He goes, how about this? 20,000 5-gallon buckets of dirt. And I could wrap my head around that, just in that one mound. So these sacred places are all around the riverway. I also have been working with the Muscadet Chamber of Commerce, and particularly Mr. Ken Thied, retired educator, president of the Richland County Historical Society, a person I've grown to respect and admire very much. And we, with the funding from the Village of Muscadet and the Chamber of Commerce, Lions Club, Three Eagles Foundation, some private donors, and many others, were able to accomplish this historic Muscadet Mile, starting at Railroad Park and then going down to the river as the main anchors. And there are still stages of this, or phases of this project, but it celebrates the history of the area, going all the way back to the geological history, and then the social history, and then including the settlement era, and then finally the history of Muscadet when it moved from Lower Town, when Muscadet was English Prairie, all the way to the time when the railroad came to town. And it includes the history of the native people, the indigenous populations, the effigy mound builders, and we really try to accentuate the fact that there were people who lived here for generations before the European explorers and eventually the American settlement era. Project I'm really excited about. I serve as the president of the Friends of the Cross Currents Heritage Center. And in fact, I'll be going there for a meeting at 1 o'clock with Bruce and Ben Moffitt. I know Gene Burkett and Merrill and Houck and others, Brian and Terry, perhaps some of you have been there. We had the soft opening for this in October with 3 special events. But this is the Tipisaki Farm, so it's Cross Currents Heritage Center at Tipisaki Farm, which is just west of Port Andrew in Richland County, across from Blue River. John Coombe was the first non-native settler in Richland County in 1838. He was from England, came over, eventually found his way to Mineral Point as a miner, and then when they opened up land sales, he settled here. His first 2 cabins were burned out by the indigenous people, the Ho-Chunk or Winnebago. Eventually had another cabin, and then he built this house in the early 1860s, along with a barn in 1861. And this house remains there today. And the Moffats, Bruce and Ben, are descendants of John Coombe. The painting captures the essence of the place. The parlor has been restored. Some of the original furnishings from the 1860s, the original carpet. They had samples that Bruce and Ben's mother Mary had saved from the wallpaper and have replicated the original wallpaper. The original piano that came by steamboat. A lot of the original furnishings. It's an amazing place. And as Gabby Knable can tell you, who graduated from high school with Mary Moffat, and Gabby Knable is here with us today. Would you like to raise your hand? Some of you know her as Jean Birkin. She was there and can share some of the stories about, there was occasionally social gatherings at this place, sometimes in the 50s and 60s and otherwise, but it's a very special place. This is the old bell that still stands there that would call the workers in for mealtime back in 1860s, 70s, and beyond. The original 1861 barn, amazing construction. And for those who are interested in this old architecture, that center beam apparently is extremely unique, and the whole architecture of this barn is incredible, and there's restoration going on with that. So what we hope to do with the Cross Currents Heritage Center, again, bringing in the Ho-Chunk Nation as a big part of this story, but is to use this for educational opportunities, for preserving this site. It's a 501c3, and to tell the story of both early settlement, going with all kinds of disciplines, from the science-based part of it, the history-based part of it, the social history of it, and have a place for healing between the native peoples and the white peoples, but also use it for dark skies, for stargazing, and then for arts too, for a performance venue. So I'm really excited about what's going to transpire with this place. We're just in the infancy. And there is some of the Moffat family, Mary in the middle, Bruce and Ben seated on either side, and one of their cousins who lives in Seattle. Voyaging canoe trips has just exploded in popularity. These large canoes, 25 feet long, they each weigh 350 pounds, 8 adults. So we guide canoe trips each summer, June and July. As I mentioned, 2023 was a challenge because of low water. 2024, we had to cancel a lot of trips because of high water. But 8 adults, we have public trips where you can sign up. We also do some private trips where we just take groups out. For instance, I had the Wisconsin Wetlands Association. They held a Leopold Foundation, Natural Resources Foundation trip. So some of those type of groups, a group of UW alumni and others. So they're very popular, very safe. Could make sure everyone wears their life jacket. And we just go on different segments of the river. It's a great way to inform people about the riverway, and everyone has a good time. And then just to conclude, since the year of the riverway is winding down, we had a very nice event at Spring Green in October. I was able to have former Governor Thompson, former State Senator Dale Schultz, and former State Representative Spencer Black join us at the Wisconsin Riverside Resort. So we celebrated the 35th anniversary of the Riverway. One of the highlights for me was to have my grandson, Henry, who was in 2nd grade, 8 years old. I goes to school here in the Richland District, and he did the Pledge of Allegiance to start us off. Knocked it out of the park. We should have just stopped right there. And then we had a great program for going on from there. So to conclude, this will be the last time I do this for the Year of the Riverway, but this is my ode to the Riverway. Thousands and thousands of years ago, sheets of ice surround the valley. The ice begins to melt. Trickle by trickle, a giant lake forms to the north. The ice dam bursts. A cataclysmic torrent of water cascades south and west and shapes the landscape. The sun warms the earth, plants grow, and animals thrive. Paleo-Indians successfully hunt a mastodon. Death begets life in the ancient valley. Who will tell the story of the old ones 20 years from now? I wonder. 12 millennia pass. The effigy mound builders are here, the bird people. Earthworks are created telling profound stories on the land. Tumuli in the shapes of eagles and hawks, bears, water spirits, and even man. Linear and conical mounds for the revered dead. Calendar mounds to track the sun. Cave walls speak through art. Redhorn lives on in a secluded coulee. Who will tell the tales of the mound builders 50 years from now? I wonder. 6 more centuries elapse. The new ones arrived. Marquette and Joliet, Carver and Schoolcraft, Redbird and Blackhawk tempt fate and fade into history. The Ho-Chunk people are removed, but come back and stay. John Coon farms. Henry Dodge rises to power. John Muir walks along the tracks and cogitates. Reuben Goldthwait floats down the river and pontificates. Aldo Leopold thinks. Frank Lloyd Wright designs. August Derleth writes. Who will be the new ones 100 years from now? I wonder. The 21st century dawns, and still, a blue ribbon of water meanders through evanescent tawny sandbars. And still, a sparkling river flows past vine-clad islands and emerald-bound shores. And still, a full moon rises, casting light upon the shimmering diamond-studded stream. And still, bottomland forests are heavy with rime, slumbering beneath a blanket of snow. And still, majestic bluffs maintain a silent, eternal vigil over the valley below. What will this landscape and this river look like in the 23rd century? I wonder. 1,000 years from this day, who will be here to watch in silent adoration as a bald eagle soars overhead, silhouetted against a clear blue sky? Who will be here to thrill at the primordial call of the sandhill crane, proclaiming spring has arrived? Who will be here to listen to the susurrus of wind in the trees, whispering stories of retrospection? Who will be here to stand amidst the effigy mounds and contemplate the legacy of those who have gone before? Who will be here to recognize the powerful spirit of this special place, the valley of the river of 1,000 isles? I wonder, I wonder, I wonder.
Well, Mark, we want to thank you. You have been one busy guy in the past 3 years, just keeping up with the bridge replacements all the way up and down. So we want to give you this gift as our gratitude, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for tuning in. It's getting closer to the holidays. We hope you'll come back next week, and every week we'll bring you news from around the area.